You know, we all have that one brand, right? The one that just takes you back.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, it's Abercrombie and Fitch. Like, you think about it and you're right back in the mall, with those iconic or maybe infamous marketing campaigns.
Oh, absolutely. The cologne clouds, the shirtless models, the whole thing.
Exactly. But today, we're not diving into, the history of their marketing. We're going way deeper. Think corporate scandal with a serious dose of, wait, what?
Uh-huh. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Because the brand's former CEO, Mike Jeffries, was just arrested on some pretty heavy charges. Sex trafficking and interstate prostitution.
Wow.
Yeah, we're talking federal charges. And we've been going through all the reports, breaking this down, so you're not just getting headlines, but the full picture.
That's what we like to hear, a good old-fashioned deep dive.
Yeah.
So where do we start?
Well, this isn't just some, accusation. These are federal charges, right? What does that actually mean in this context?
Right, exactly. And you're right. Federal charges, especially in a case like this, they carry a whole other level of weight. This isn't just a local matter. The feds believe this is something much bigger, with broader implications.
And it's not just Jeffries, right? The indictment names a couple of other people allegedly involved.
Absolutely. His partner, Matthew Smith, is also named, along with a James Jacobson, who they're saying was a middleman in all of this.
A middleman.
Yeah, and that detail is really important because it indicates this wasn't just Jeffries acting alone. We could be looking at a whole network here.
And, the indictment mentions this being an international operation.
Right.
And that's where my eyebrows went up. Can you tell us more about that? What do we know about just how big this whole thing might be?
Well, honestly, that's what's so disturbing. Prosecutors are alleging this operation involved recruiting young men. And not just locally. We could be talking parties and events, both here in the U.S. and internationally.
And from what I understand, this wasn't just a few individuals.
No, not at all. The indictment actually lists 15 alleged victims.
15.
They're referred to as John Does, #1 through #15.
Wow. That really points to the potential scale of this operation. And this isn't even the first time we're hearing about these kinds of allegations against Jeffries, is it?
You have a good memory.
There was that BBC investigation back in 2023, right?
Absolutely. And you're right, this isn't coming out of nowhere. That BBC investigation raised similar concerns about Jeffries and Smith's involvement in this kind of network. But what's important to remember is those were more than just rumors. They sparked a serious investigation. And that investigation ultimately led us to these current charges.
Wow. So this has been going on for, who knows how long, potentially.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
And it makes you think about the abuse of power at play here. We're talking about someone who is in a position of immense power and influence.
Absolutely. This is where it becomes bigger than just a scandal. It raises questions about how power dynamics work. Did Jeffries use his wealth, his status, his connections at Abercrombie and Fitch to enable and potentially cover up these alleged activities?
Yeah, and if so, it makes you wonder, is this a pattern we see with powerful people, not just in corporations, but across society?
Exactly. It's a huge question. And we've seen similar situations play out in Hollywood, in politics, in tech. So it makes you wonder, is this a systemic issue, or are these isolated incidents?
And speaking of corporations, Abercrombie and Fitch released a statement, right?
They did.
Distancing themselves from Jeffries, condemning his actions, the whole 9 yards.
Right. They're saying all the right things, condemning his actions, expressing their disgust. But it does make you wonder, is a statement really enough?
Especially with something this serious.
Exactly. Because this situation really raises questions about how much responsibility these big corporations should bear for what their executives do, especially when it happens outside of work.
Should they have known? Did they?
It's tricky. And it'll be really interesting to see how the legal system even begins to figure that out. And there's another layer to this, too. There's a civil lawsuit against Abercrombie and Fitch in the works, alleging they might have been complicit in some of this.
Oh, wow. So we've got the criminal case and now this whole other legal battle brewing.
Yeah, this is far from over. And Jeffries and Smith's lawyers have said they're going to fight these charges.
So they're denying any wrongdoing.
Yep. And that means this is going to be a long process. Both the criminal case and the civil suit against Abercrombie and Fitch could drag on for years.
Dude, we've gone way beyond a simple scandal here. We're talking about potential abuse of power on a large scale, corporate responsibility, and the ripple effects of these accusations.
Absolutely. And, it really makes you think, how do we as a society balance respecting the legal process while also making sure that potential victims get justice? And what can we do to prevent these situations from happening in the first place?
Yeah. Are there safeguards we can put in place?
These are questions we all need to consider, not just in the corporate world, but in every aspect of our lives. It's about accountability, transparency, and really looking at the systems that allow these abuses of power to happen.
So much to think about. Well, thank you for diving into this with me. It's been enlightening and unsettling, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack here.